one of the things you find is that if you were arrested by the KGB, by the secret police in the Soviet Union, and you were hauled off to like a tribunal, before a judge, they wanted you to admit that you were guilty. You had to. Like, they torture you until you confessed, or you could just confess. And that, I always found that so mysterious. It's like they kick down your door. They know perfectly well that they haven't got any more on you than they've got on anyone else, and yet you have to go through the damn trial and you have to admit that they're right. It's like, why do they even bother with that? Why don't they just throw your sorry ass into the camp, which is essentially what's going to happen anyways? Why do they need your collaboration? You know, I've never quite figured that out. I think it's partly because they're not willing to let you stand in opposition to the rules, because the mere fact that you'll do that means that you exist as something that is allowed to exist outside the rules, and they're not having any of that. So that's part of it. But there's more to it. There's more to it than that. It's like the drama of collaboration. So one of the things I learned about societies like the Soviet Union, and this is true of all tyrannical societies, is that the idea that that's top down and that people are just following orders, they're good people but they're just following orders, it's like, you can forget about that. That's a stupid theory. When a society becomes tyrannical like that, the tyranny exists at every single level of the society. You tyrannize your own conscience. So let's say you're a true believer. You're a true believer in Marxist utopia, let's say, or National Socialist Third Reich that's going to last 1,000 years and be racially pure. You really believe that. And that's supposed to be a perfect state. And that's already been delivered to you. And so what that means is that insofar as you're a true believer, your own suffering becomes heretical. Because to the degree that you're suffering, you're living proof of the fact that the system is not delivering what it promised to deliver. And so you have to suppress that. You have to become your own tyrant. You can't admit that anything's gone wrong. And of course you can't talk about it to your family, because 1 out of 3 of them are government informers, just like 1 out of 3 of everyone. And you're certainly not going to mention it in the workplace, because unless you're a devout Communist Party member, you're not going anywhere. And if any of your ancestors were like landowners or bourgeoisie, it's like, you're done. You're done. Class guilt, man. You're not going anywhere. And then every single level of the bureaucracy is exactly the same as that, and on the top there's a tyrant. But the tyrant is everywhere. Everywhere. From the peak to the soul. It's all tyranny. And everyone participates in that by lying about everything. And that's why you see what happens next in the movie. So Pinocchio's in jail, and he's there because he was naive and he allowed himself to be enticed, and because he did something that would have run contrary to his conscience. But the movie doesn't put up straw men, you know. The poor damn puppet got tangled into this. His conscience wasn't even around. So you have to have some sympathy for him, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because he ends up in jail and he can't get out, and the fact that it in some ways wasn't his fault doesn't change the fact that he's in jail and he can't get out. And then I was watching Louis C.K. the other night, and he was talking about children lying. He was talking about his 9-year-old daughter lying, and he said, well, it's no wonder your children lie, and it's no wonder it's impossible for you to stop them, because, you know, you're talking to someone his head would scrape the roof. They weigh like 3 times as much as you, and they're capable of force, and they're intimidating. And they say to you something like, did you take that last cookie after I told you not to? And you're thinking, oh no, I took the cookie. What am I going to do? And then you get a genius idea in your head, which smarter children learn to lie earlier. Children with high IQs learn to lie younger. And CK says, well, it's like you've just been handed a magic get out of jail free card. You can just say, no, I didn't take that cookie. And worse than that, it works in every single situation if you get away with it. And now you're supposed to learn not to do that. I said, well, great. That's the thing about comedians, you know, they'll tell you the underlying truth, which is why people think they're so funny, like the jester in a king's court, right? He's the only one who's allowed to tell the king the truth, because he's beneath contempt. That's what comedians do.